Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Star Wars discussion video. Today I want to talk about the future of the Star Wars license in gaming. So a few days ago I made a video talking about two ways that EA is planning to bring back microtransactions in Battlefront 2. In that very video we talked about a Reddit user named CravGuy who mentioned that Disney threatened EA with pulling their exclusivity deal with them on the Star Wars franchise over the bad press surrounding Battlefront 2's in-game purchases, because Disney does not want to associate themselves with practices that are known as gambling. Since that video, more and more investigations have cropped up, and I'm not sure about the future with EA and Disney, so I want to talk about that today after I present to you guys all the information. For starters, in the US, the state of Hawaii is investigating EA for predatory practices. They say what they're doing is wrong because it is a game focused on a younger audience in what is a Star Wars online themed casino. That these are practices we often see in mobile games, but this is in a AAA game, and they're overall very disappointed with the matter. Furthermore, we have, unsurprisingly, Australia looking into the matter, saying loot boxes constitute as gambling. France is in the mix, as a French senator sent a letter to the president of Argel, which is basically the French gambling regulator. And furthermore, while this issue has been a little bit mistranslated and lost in the news cycle, Belgium is also looking into it at the moment. A lot of people think it's under investigation, but there was, like I said, a translation issue, and it's that the Gambling Commission can only give advice to the government, but they are not required to follow that advice. So right now there's no regulations being put into place in Belgium, but more so, it's being investigated. To put it simply, having all those investigations underway of your company and your practices is not good for press. And I know some people might say, well, Disney's made products that involve gambling before. I mean, look at Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes on mobile. And I think it's less of the actual practice in this case and more of the stigma that's attached to Battlefront 2, and more importantly, EA, the company that Disney is partnered with. Often enough, you are judged by the company you keep. So I'm not saying it's actually happening, but with all this news in the mix, all this discussion about EA predatory practices, the Star Wars license is not in a good place, and also Battlefront 2 is underperforming at launch compared to Battlefront 1. What if EA were to lose that Star Wars license? Who could pick it up? Who would we like to see? Well, my first thought was maybe license out Star Wars games based off the company and vision of the title, like with Marvel. I think this is the ideal route for Disney to go. Marvel sits down with the company and waits for that perfect match with a game. We want to make a fighting game. We do have this Marvel vs. Capcom series. Okay, we'll sit down with Capcom and get this done. We're looking for creative gameplay in an open world. Oh, Insomniac Games can do that. Let's have them sit down and talk about a Spider-Man game. It was always about finding the ideal partner when it came to Marvel, and I think that would highly benefit Star Wars and also lead to a lot less cancellations and issues with having one team balance all the Star Wars games for the next decade. If we're talking specific companies acquiring the license similar to how EA did, then I have two that come to mind immediately. The first is Warner Brothers, who is always apparently seeking out new licenses to acquire, and they do have a healthy amount of developers underneath them, like the ones who created Mad Max or Rocksteady, who works on the Batman games, where seeing Star Wars games from them would actually be quite interesting. But I think the company that really stuck out to me most, despite some of their recent practices when it comes to their published titles, I mean, they are excellent for the most part, is Bethesda. I mean, I'm imagining a first-person shooter like a Republic Commando by Machine Games, who just released Wolfenstein 2, which is an excellent title. One of the best single-player shooters you can play ever. A Star Wars game by Arcane Studios with that creativity that that studio holds in its gameplay. A Death Troopers game by Tango Gameworks, you know, a little bit of horror going into Star Wars. Of course, an open world Star Wars game, which we have not yet seen, by Bethesda Game Studios, that hopefully has that heavy RPG focus. A fast multiplayer Star Wars shooter by id. What I'm saying is that on paper, based off Bethesda's resume from its published studios, I see a fantastic match. And I know to some extent when this deal first happened with EA, we thought the same thing. BioWare really wasn't in the shitter it's in right now, where we thought, okay, maybe we'll get a competent Star Wars RPG. The DICE Battlefront collaboration was about to happen that lots of us fans, myself included, dreamt of many years after the canceled original Battlefront 3. So it's easy to just talk about who it would fit with best, and that's why I think maybe it would be in Disney's best interest to simply go case by case, take a vision, and find a studio. No need to rush it. It's Star Wars. It's going to sell. You just need to take the time to get it right. But regardless, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of the Star Wars license in the comments down below. Do you think EA is going to end up holding on to this somehow, or do you think Disney's going to can it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all, peace.